And the studio lights beamed down, the audience cheered, and Arnold Schwarzenegger grinned confidently as he settled into his seat across from the host. It was meant to be a night of laughter, stories, and throwback moments. But it took a turn that no one expected. The atmosphere shifted the moment Karoline Leavitt was mentioned. A rising political voice, Karoline had been making headlines, and Arnold, with his usual bravado, couldn't resist the chance to take a jab, not at her policies, but at her husband. What followed would be remembered long after the credits rolled. With the cameras rolling and the audience laughing, Arnold leaned into the mic and quipped, "I respect Karoline's fire, but her husband looks like he got lost on the way to a debate and ended up in a CrossFit gym." Laughter erupted, but not all of it was comfortable. Some chuckled nervously, others looked around. The host tried to move on, but Arnold continued, mocking his fashion, his background, and even his job. It felt more like a roast than an interview. And backstage, Karoline's husband was watching every word. Unknown to the crowd, Karoline and her husband had been invited as surprise guests for a later segment. But after hearing Arnold's comments, plans shifted. Without a word to producers, her husband stood up, adjusted his jacket, and walked toward the stage entrance. What the audience didn't know was that the calm, quiet man Arnold had just insulted wasn't just a gym guy. He was a decorated military veteran, tech entrepreneur, and well-respected in political strategy circles. And now, he wasn't going to wait for his cue. As Arnold continued telling stories, the studio doors opened. Karoline's husband stepped onto the set, calmly but with presence. The room fell into silence. Arnold's grin faltered. Well, if it isn't the man himself," he said, trying to laugh it off. But Karoline's husband didn't smile. He walked up to Arnold, looked him in the eye, and said, "You don't have to like me, but mocking my service and my family's integrity to get a laugh, that's beneath you." The silence was now thick, tense, unignorable. Arnold stood up, perhaps expecting confrontation, but Karoline's husband remained composed. "I didn't come here to fight. I came here because people like you, who've been given the mic for decades, forget that power deserves humility." The audience didn't know what to do. Some clapped softly, others waited for the cameras to cut. But they didn't. The host motioned for a break, but the control room let it roll. This was no longer entertainment. This was reality unfiltered. Karoline soon joined her husband on stage. She didn't yell, she didn't dramatize. She simply placed a hand on his arm and looked at Arnold. "You once said character is revealed under pressure. Well, tonight, it's on full display." Arnold, now visibly humbled, nodded slowly. "Maybe I went too far," he said. It was rare to see him backtrack. But the situation called for more than charm. It called for respect. The audience finally applauded, not for drama, but for the dignity shown in the face of mockery. After the show, the internet exploded. Clips of the moment went viral. Hashtags like "Respect walked in" and "Schwarzenegger silenced" trended overnight. Fans debated whether Arnold had gone too far or if Karoline's husband had overreacted. But one thing became clear: in an era of sound bites and showmanship, integrity still mattered. The clip was viewed over 40 million times in 24 hours, with veterans groups and public figures chiming in to support Karoline's husband. Arnold released a short video statement the next day. "I made a joke that wasn't just in poor taste. It disrespected someone who deserved better. I've faced tough people in movies, but that moment reminded me what real strength looks like." It was a rare admission, and while some called it PR damage control, others appreciated the humility. Meanwhile, Karoline and her husband stayed quiet, letting the moment speak for itself. Talk shows, podcasts, and news panels picked apart every second. Analysts said it marked a shift in how celebrity jokes were being perceived. no longer harmless when aimed at personal dignity. It wasn't about politics or fame, it was about crossing a line. And this time, someone pushed back not with rage, but with calm power. As one columnist wrote, "It was the night a man walked into a joke and walked out with everyone's respect." And so, what began as a late-night comedy routine turned into a cultural flashpoint. Arnold Schwarzenegger, once the unshakable icon, met a moment he couldn't control. Karoline's husband didn't yell, didn't threaten, didn't fight. He simply showed up, stood tall, and changed the entire energy in the room. Because sometimes real presence speaks louder than punchlines, and sometimes the man mocked becomes the man remembered.